Hey guys, welcome to another East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach. Zach, right over there. How you doing, Zach? On a not a victory Monday or Tuesday, a regular Tuesday after a rough defeat.
Just give me 1 second, though. I'm finishing up ordering my puka shells from Amazon right now. Because at least he showed up to play yesterday. The rookie doing his magic, continuing his magic rookie year. But yeah, we'll break down everything, all of our thoughts, conspiracy theories, things like that. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Took some tough L's. The Rams lost. My fantasy team lost. A lot of L's going around in the football space for me. So hopefully,
Hey,
both can bounce back.
so I did win both of my fantasy leagues, and one of them was in big thanks to one Mr. Puka Nakua and the other one, Mr. Daryl Henderson, who we'll also get to talk about pretty in depth for this game because those two did. I mean, obviously Puka was the biggest, but Henderson played very well for
Mm-hmm.
not playing for almost a year now.
And Freeman.
Well, Freeman too, yes, but I mean, Freeman's been on a team regularly. I mean, literally, Daryl Henderson was just picked up off the street, and was a starter. So we'll get into that. But before we go into any of that, please make sure you guys like and subscribe to this podcast. It's the one free thing you can do to help support us. You can go to youtube.com/at East Coast Rams, subscribe there, and then also follow us on X. That's probably our most used social platform. We're also on the other ones as well, but make sure you hit us up on X at East Coast Rams. With that, let's go into some of the breaking news. Really, there's only one main breaking news that we have for the day, and that is in response to some of the bad performance that happened on Sunday, and probably the reason why we did end up losing the game. And that is that the Rams parted ways with their kicker Maher after he missed 2 of 3 field goals and an extra point, both crucial 7-point losses. And it wasn't. I mean, yeah, we'll get into it, but big blow. I mean, I guess not big blow, but I mean, for a team that has this bad kicking problem where we keep going into this kicking carousel, it's not great going into week 8, not really having a defined kicker. We did pick up someone on the practice squad, which we'll get in a second, but what are your initial reactions to Bret Maher being kicked out of the Los Angeles Rams?
I kind of think he's being thrown under the bus. I understand he didn't have a good game, and he's one of those kickers that has up and down games. You've seen that in the last 3 years. But he has a league. He is accurate to a certain point, especially under 50 yards, and all the kicks he missed were 50 yarders or plus. Like, who else better for the price tag we were paying him is better than that? And not a lot of kickers. The guy we just signed in college had a 60% accuracy rate, or like 63. So, like, I mean, good luck with that. Maybe he's gone better. Matt Gay was happy to see him sign. So, I mean, who knows?
And
Maybe they found Diamond.
I mean, he had a high trajectory prior to the postseason last season, he was doing really well. He played amazing until he had the 5 missed extra points. After that, he hasn't been the same. He did well for us last week and made all the field goals that he was asked to do, but they were in moderately easy range. They were in that 30 to 39 range. A lot of them were, where he's been pretty perfect. I mean, under 40, he's been perfect. But it's when we get into that 40, and then obviously this didn't really help, but in the 50 range, That's where we saw problems. And not to say every kicker needs to be a 50-yard kicker, but he was missing 40s too. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I think the Rams I don't think they really listen to the fans. They kind of listen to their own internal thoughts, but this is something that I think majority of the Ram fan base wanted and they got. And I know you're the one of the vocal ones against it. Jake Ellenbogen was one kind of a vocal against this. But I do think that it costed them the game. Now, whether you say that they should have been in better field position to give him a better shot at kicking a field goal, sure. But when the game was that close, you need to be able to have a kicker that you can rely on. And I don't think you can rely on this kicker. A lot of his kicks that he did make were also not straight. They were close to missing. Almost a lot of them were. So yes, he was 73%, but I want to know how often that he was kind of, center on the goalpost.
Who are you going to get that's better? The whole point of moving on from a kicker should be to progress. Yeah, but we don't have the money to pay him. He wants to get paid. He doesn't want to get vet minimum. So, who are you going to get that's better that's the same price? And that's my problem with this move. And that's why I view it as a scapegoat. I really do think. And the fan base wants to blame the loss on the kicker when that's not the reason we lost the game. Was it a contributing factor? Yes. Did it make situations worse? Yes. I would like to have a better kicker, very clearly, but I think he's the best we can get right now for that price. And I just think moving on from him, and be careful for what you wish for, because I really do think if this kicker hasn't improved since college, he's going to be a lot worse. And we're going to lose more games, not just because of 50-yard field goals. So
I'm kind of curious, again, one of the things that I kind of wanted to point out is Ethan Evans. I mean, he's been a monster as the punter, and he's also been doing our kickoffs, which he's also been excellent at that. Can he not kick? I almost thought that they should have tried just to see if he would even have that option to do it.
That's too much on his leg, though. That's a lot.
It is, I know. But I kind of thought, if you're going for a 50, what was that last one that he missed? A 54 or 51? I almost would have thought, hey, just try him out. I mean, after the missed field goal and then the mixed extra point, that's when I think it was that extra point that kind of just, I don't know. I think it did it in for him. I think the first missed field goal, it was post 50, 53, if I remember right. And that one, it's really long. A lot of kickers in the league aren't going to kick a 53 successfully every single time. So that was fine. He redeemed himself the next time around, got the field goal, and then the extra point. Missed that one. So then the Rams had to go out and do a 2-point conversion, which they were successful. And then he missed that last one. I think yes, the Rams put him in a bad spot, but I think that also just you lose momentum when you're trying to win a game. And if your kicker can't score the 3 points, the one job he's responsible for, it's not like he does other positions too. This is his one job, is to kick field goals and to kick them accurately. And when you miss 2 field goals and an extra point, especially in one game, you're going to be liable to be on the chopping block.
I don't think any of the kickers that we could replace him with would have made those kicks.
I just don't think they wanted to keep giving him more and more chances. I don't know. I honestly thought that they were going to keep him. The post-conference McVay, I thought, okay, they're going to look, but they'll probably keep him. Then you listen to the coach Sean McVay show, and it also just the tone he set kind of made it seem like they were going to kick him. And then the next day they cut him and they moved on to Lucas Havrisik, who was undrafted in 2022 by the Colts. And then they actually picked him off the Browns practice squad.
That means he's going to the 53.
Correct. So there isn't a whole lot on him as far as pro. He's not actually played a
Nope.
regular season game.
I think he's 2 of 3 in the preseason.
I thought he was 2 of 2. I don't think he's missed. I will double check that real quick. But like you mentioned, when he was in college, he was 63%, 64% at best. So not great, not great at all. He does have a career long at 57 yards. So, there's that. And if you take it for what it's worth, he also he's been documented to kick a 66 yarder. Obviously that was unofficial in, kind of his own setup. But that is something to put out there. I know you don't like the move. You rather we keep them. But they made the move. So now we're kind of have to live with it as fans. And, obviously
I mean, his stats are similar to Sam Sloman. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think the time for testing stuff out was the preseason and I thought it was weird we didn't have longer kicker competition. This team has been atrocious with kickers. I think, frankly, we got lucky with Matt Gay. Besides that, this team hasn't handled since Zerline left kickers very well. And I think this is continuing to be wanting to just throw a kicker out because he misses 50-yard plus field goals. I think is ludicrous. Very few kickers can make those kicks in the NFL. I think people have to accept that. And this year, like we understood that we're running with a guy that had a rocky season before that, and I think putting him in that situation when he's in such a fragile state, anyways, I think you're asking him to miss. Frankly, you have to build his confidence back up, and just cutting him the way they did, I just don't think it's good personnel management.
And I don't know if it is either. I just, if you just combined what his postseason was to what he's done this season, it hasn't been great. Now, granted, the Rams are the highest. They're the team that has attempted the most field goals so far through week 7. So that's kind of, slightly unfair to him as well. But at the same time, he had his chance. He missed it. It's the life of the NFL. When you don't produce the way that you think the team thinks that you should produce, they're going to cut. And that's what the Rams do. It doesn't matter what player you are. They're going to do it, and they're going to try to move on. They've done it. They may continue to do it. This might not be the last kicker that we see going through the Rams house. So we'll see. His record for preseason is 2 of 2 for field goals and 3 of 4 of extra points. Just
okay. So the extra point. I mean, hopefully it's a good move. People thought Matt Gay was bad whenever he came to Rams. Turned out to be really good. So hopefully, I just think, again, when you look at the situation, I think people are being overly harsh on Maher, and it's going to be something that hopefully he works on and he gets another chance with team, but I don't think he will, even though I think he's a solid kicker. He's not great, and no one else the Rams for that price could have signed, I'll just say this one more time, would have made those kicks. No one else. So, people can be pissed at him, but I think there's other reasons we lost the game. Reason we were kicking 50-yard field goals instead of 40 or 30 or 20.
Yeah, so let's go down and break down this game a little bit, because again, this was a weird game. This was a game that the Rams should have won. They mostly bit themselves in the foot. It wasn't just, people are going to blame the play calling. It wasn't just the play calling. You're going to blame Cooper Kupp's drops. It wasn't Cooper Kupp's drops. Was it the Matthew Stafford? It wasn't just Matthew Stafford. Was it the defense? No, it wasn't the defense. It's really, if you go back and watch this game, there's a lot of things that contribute. They kind of shoot themselves in the foot a lot. but there's still something off about this team, which I want to talk about kind of towards the end. But we go into this game. Let's see. Hold on. I'm bringing it up, but the stats are just kind of crazy. Like, if you look at this, we should have won this game. Like, there's every momentum that we had to do so, and we just kind of failed. What are your initial thoughts to the game?
Yeah, so the Rams this year have been unable, outside of week one, been unable to have two good halves of football in the same game. They've had one bad half and one good half in every game since. This game is a different animal because, in my opinion, they were having good drive, bad drive, back to back, like one after other. So it was kind of different complexity. And this team shows so many good moments of brilliance and, great playmaking and good execution. And then on like the very next play, it will be the exact opposite. And that is, and we've talked about it, Zach, this team has no follow through. It has problems with execution, constant execution. And I feel like it's different groups having bad execution at different time. And this team can't get on the same page. And it's like, it's driving me nuts. I know it's driving a lot of the fan base nuts. But this game was a tale of a team that was shooting itself in the foot. And then at the very end, the ref shot the other foot. But like, we can't just keep on playing like this and expecting to win football games. Like you said, every metric was almost in favor of the Rams. Like, we had time of possession, we had yards, like all that. And, you lose the game.
I mean, it kind of goes into what the last week I was talking about the running game, and I was like, the team who meets parity has won the previous 6 games. This was not the case. The Rams were the closest to parity as far as running and passing, but it's because of some of the stuff that you were mentioning last week, where it's the penalties, it's some of the execution that happens that can mess that up. So you were spot on with that, and so this was the game again, we should have won in all metrics. We should have won. It was some of the shooting ourselves in the foot, especially in the third quarter, where it really just kind of bogged down. Because every single time every missed field goal that we had led to points for the Steelers. And then obviously Stafford's interception coming off the second half caused them to get their touchdown. So it's just kind of, I don't know. This team is so frustrating because they are so much more than we could have even anticipated them being prior to this season. And yet they're performing in a way that's just barely above that initial performance. Does that make sense? Like, this team is talented. I don't like everybody's first take that we don't have a talented team. This team has talent at every
This is a playoff team. I actually think this team could compete for a division, like the NFC West. Yes. I don't think the NFC West is the best division this year, but I definitely think they could beat the 49ers out for it. We just got to stop losing games that we should win, not just statistically, but just like by the eyeball, like by the comparison, like how the two teams perform, especially with the Bengals and Steelers, and arguably the 49ers. Like, that's 3 games. I think 3 out of our 4 were games that we should have just won, that this team in critical moments doesn't stick to execution. I think some of that has to do with youth, right? Like, we have young players. They either the moment's too big for them, or they're just don't have their technique down 100%. And I think the team does have holes that other teams are taking advantage of, especially after half.
Yeah, and a lot of people thought the offense was going to carry this team, and it's not. The defense is not the problem with this team. I don't care who's.
No.
I mean, the defense is playing the way that they know how to play. Raheem Morris is bringing a young group and making them competitive. I mean, we are matching with the 49ers. We are matching toe for toe with the Eagles. It's our offense who's not being able to keep up. And that's the frustrating part about this.
Yeah.
Because I don't even want to focus my frustrations on the defense. The defense, I thought, played a good game. Sure, they got tired a little bit, but again, when your offense can't stay on the field, what do you expect? Super proud of Hoyt. Showed up on Sunday and got 2 sacks. Best game that he's had all season. So that's excellent for him. He also got 2 tackles for loss. Again, he just had a great game. And I know Aaron Donald I heard his name a lot and I saw him chasing a lot, but he didn't make the big explosive plays like he's used to. But again, when he's double or triple teamed, those things are going to happen. So other players on that defensive line need to also step up a little bit.
Let's not forget, Zach, like you mentioned earlier, with the 3 missed field goals, you have to understand, people need to understand, this defense had a shorter field to defend, not a longer one. Like, they weren't starting at the 20-25. I think they had 1 drive starting from within the 15, whenever we punted.
I mean, we don't know.
So you have to take that in context. Like, if the Steelers' offense is not great, and I feel like the 25 yards does matter with giving this defense room to try different stuff out and be able to not give up a field goal or a touchdown because of it.
I don't disagree with you at all. My only counter to that, definitely the touchdown or the interception. That was bad. Defense, there really wasn't a whole lot the defense could really do. That was the shortest field. And I'll talk about this when we really get to dive into what is the problem with this offense. But whether or not they tried to kick the field goal, the Rams haven't been successful on the offense. And so I don't even know if they would even have tried. The best they probably would have gotten is or I guess in the defense, they may have gotten an extra few yards if they turn over on downs. It would have been 4 or 5 yards that they probably would have got if it was turnover.
No, they could have punted. Instead of doing the field goals, you punt, stick them down on the 10-yard line. That offense wasn't doing anything outside of 1 drive. They had 1 great drive and 1 average drive. And I feel like the rest of the game, we were locking them down, stopping everything. And the defense had to start playing a little bit more aggressive in the 4th quarter because it was going to become a 2-score game if they didn't. And that's why they were giving up some of the big yardage to the wide receivers in the 4th quarter. Is because they had to go for picks. They had to go for turnovers.
I think it was a risk that they were willing to take, that even if it was shorter field, they thought that their defense could have held them to no less than a field goal. Obviously, one of them was a field goal and one of them was a touchdown. But I think that was the risk that McVay was willing to do, is we're going to try this field goal because that would give us 3 points. And when you go to the statistics, I think anybody in his situation probably would have tried for that field goal.
After Maher missed the extra point, I think having your kicker, I just disagree with having your kicker do a 50-yard plus after he misses extra point. I think the confidence isn't there.
Fair point. So that's 3 points that, so for that 1 drive, and that's the one that scored the touchdown. But
I think giving your defense an extra 20 to 30 yards makes a lot of difference.
Sure. I don't think so. I mean, it's also difficult to punt that close. I mean, they would have had to get, a couple delays to get into a better punting spot for him.
I think that's actually better for our kicker. Like, he has no problem being accurate. His hang time is the issue. And being that close, I think that might actually work to how he is punting right now, personally, but because he's super quick.
Okay, so
Not
let's go to
super.
the so the Steelers offense did not play super well. You know, I mean, it was enough to win the game. Bad officiating at the end. Let's talk about that real quick before I dive into what's the problem with the Rams. Let's talk about the officiating. The officiating was not
Gosh.
great. The Steelers I felt like were penalized all the time, but we just kept declining it because it was in our better favor not to accept any of their penalties. But then we get to the very end. Let's talk before we get to the 4-1. You know, the Steelers tush push or whatever you want to call it. The play that shouldn't have even made that even happen right before
Oh my
that with
gosh.
the phantom PI call that got called on Witherspoon when that was a clean defensive spot. And then the Rams kind of get lucky that there was a taunting call to offset it. And so they just had to
You're not
replay.
getting lucky when you got a bad call against you, and
Well, it's lucky to the
that's
fact
not
that
luck.
it's not luck, but at the same time, it is luck because if he would have got that phantom PI, there's nothing you could do about it. It was going to be an automatic first down, and the game was going to be sealed at that point. At least the Rams got lucky into the fact that there was also another penalty. There was a penalty on them for taunting in that offset, which is weird because you would almost think that the taunting came after the play. And so I don't know. I've been reading a lot of NFL officiating rules because some of these rules make zero sense to me. But yeah.
That was just ridiculous, and the fact that in NFL you can't challenge those, and I get McVay didn't have anything. Which also, let's just be frank, Zach. It was weird that McVay called timeouts in the 3-minute mark. I almost never like taking timeouts until after the 2-minute. Now, I understand typically like you need timeout, like because we run the clock out a lot sometimes whenever we're at the line.
Yeah.
But you don't want to use it before the 2-minute warning in case if you have to challenge for situations like this. Now, you couldn't challenge the taunting call, which that should be NFL rule. You should be allowed to challenge a pass interference ruling and have like at least official New York either disagree or agree with it. And that was very
No,
clearly
don't
not.
go back to 2018. The Saints fans would be on your side for that. Oh, I guess that was a no call, so I guess they can't really challenge a no call. But
No.
anyways.
I actually think NFL coaches should have ability to challenge anything. Just one challenge anything. But you only get it once in the entire game. So if you want to challenge, it's an XFL rule, and I thought it worked very well. It only overturned 2 things in the entire season, like 2 or 3, but they were things that were clear and obvious, and I was like, yeah, makes sense. But going to the 4-1, that's what really pissed me off. The fact that it was clearly short, and the refs don't even go to look at a replay or anything. They should have initiated a replay, and if they don't have the ability to, that's ridiculous. For a fourth down in the last 3 minutes that decides the game, you should be able to replay and make sure you're getting that call right. And that ball was very clearly not marked. It was marked 2-3 yards ahead of where it was. I had multiple coworkers tell me, yeah, that's a sucky way to. When you have people who are non-affiliated with the team saying, yeah, that's a crappy way to lose a game, is your team doesn't even get a chance because they actually got the stop, but they spot the ball like 3 yards ahead of where it actually was. Like, that's not good. We didn't lose because of it, but we didn't get a chance to win.
And there's certain rules out there that just frustrate me. One of them is the fact that if you did have a challenge flag, you could challenge it up until the point of the next play. So if someone takes a timeout, you could still if you had another challenge, you could still challenge it before the next snap gets played. But that doesn't happen when the 2-minute warning. So just because they went to the 2 minutes, they can't go back and relook at it, even though now they're within the 2-minute warning rule. So that's frustrating. Frustrating that they changed the rule this year that if it's a turnover on downs, you can challenge, or that is an automatic review. So because it didn't go in the Rams' favor, if it would have gone in the Rams' favor, they could have reviewed it automatically.
Well, they would have. They would have
Right.
just automatically reviewed.
Automatically. Because
Yeah,
that's a
but they
new
didn't call
rule of
it.
this year. I know.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Like, I almost think any fourth down should be reviewed.
I don't
especially
see
if
how
it's
the
that
line
close.
judge, from my eyeballs, when I was watching it from the side, and the line judge has a better view than I do on TV, it was very clearly not to the line of scrimmage. Now, I get wanting to bring out the change and make sure, or like the spot, but I don't get why it wasn't called and then you did a review. Like, I think it should have been called turnover and downs, and then you review it.
I don't know if they actually if the person on the field calls it, that's what they call it. From what I was listening to, like Pat McAfee today, and Aaron Rodgers was on there, and they were talking about this briefly, and they mentioned it, and they were just like, the line judge was blocked. There's no way that line judge could actually see where Pickett was, and could see where the ball was placed. There's no way that line judge could see it.
Then you do a review. You initiate a review.
I don't know if they have that capability. I really don't. I don't know if I've ever seen a ref like they say, oh, well, they talk amongst themselves, and maybe they have New York in their ear. But again, like, and then I do want to bring up, I found an article, I don't know if you saw, that I posted from last postseason, where it was a Minnesota playoff game. They did have a challenge. They threw the challenge, but after talking with the officials and getting word from New York, they overturned it without having to use the challenge. And this was outside of the 2-minute warning. This was early in the fourth quarter when they did this. So there is precedent that New York, or, whatever, eyes in the sky, have been able to overturn calls without having to technically use the challenge flag.
Yeah, but they won't. You have to throw a challenge.
But how does that make sense? You can pick up a challenge flag. Like, you don't actually have to.
I don't think the picking up is actually a rule. I think they're supposed to take it, and that was wrong. They should have just counted the challenge. But I don't think they initiate a review without a challenge outside of 2 minutes.
I'm just saying, like, that. I mean, that is.
I think the NFL officials should have the ability on any critical down, like especially a fourth down. Fourth downs should be reviewed. I think in general, but
maybe there will be. I don't know. It's just
spot close. Like,
well, especially we have the technology. The technology's there, and we can everyone can clearly see it. SoFi's big Oculus board can clearly see that he was short, and they just don't care what they could see with their eyes. They make their decision and they get it. And I get it. A lot of sports are like that, where it doesn't matter what you say. If the official calls it the way it is, you can't do anything. A lot of, you go into baseball, you go into softball, they'll throw you out if you disagree with an ump, which is kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, like, it's their call. You want them to officiate. You want them to set the rules. They're setting the rules. You need to abide by what they say. And I don't disagree with that. But when you can clearly see, you should be able to take the technology that we're utilizing into it.
I do think officials should be able to get fined if something is egregious. And that's the problem with NFL officials. It's just the egregious, my biggest thing is the inability to call stuff the same in context of a game. Like, not calling pass interference when people are holding and not holding, or kind of like in the Super Bowl where Ramsey just gets pulled straight down. You don't call flag for that, but you call for a flag on Cup when he's barely getting graced. Like, can we just get consistency in the same game? And That's the frustrating part. We didn't lose because of this. We didn't get a chance to win. And yeah, it sucks.
So I guess my big point, and one of the big topics I want to talk about, is what is wrong with this team? Why are we not having 4 complete quarters? There are some people out there who think that is a play calling problem. And for a lot of the games, I would be in agreement with it. When we're not running the ball, we're just pass and never running the ball. We actually did really well as far as the pass run game goes. It was even. We actually ran the ball more than we threw the ball. But something is just this game, something was not right. There was the bad. I don't disagree that I don't think coming out of the second half you go in an empty backfield. I think that was a bad call. But
but that's probably a Stafford decision.
Right, and that's my point. We don't know how many of these decisions are Stafford decisions or McVay decisions. When this was Jared Goff, this was this was McVay telling Goff what to do, and he executed it. And that's where I think sometimes they got frustrated with one another, where McVay or Goff couldn't execute what McVay wanted. Now he has Stafford. He actually had someone who he could collaborate with, and Stafford has more control. And I'm concerned that he's making more decisions and is making the inaccurate throws. He's making beautiful throws. Don't get me wrong. He's had amazing throws, and we saw them again on Sunday. But there have been a lot of mistakes recently. And whether he's healthy or not, it just seems like this might be a Stafford problem.
I think out of all these games, he's played great. Some of them, he's played good. Others, there's been a lot of drops. I think you have to take that into account. I think overall he's not an issue in this game. He was good. He wasn't great. But like for the most part, like he didn't get great situations to work with, and a lot of shooting ourselves in the foot, getting first downs and then getting them called back because of holding, like stuff like that. Just it kills you. And this team constantly does that. They'll have one or two really great plays, will get moving, and then they will have a negative play. And they are a team, I feel like, if they have one bad thing happen to them on a drive, that drive is just done. Just done. They just can't recover from a momentum swing mid-drive.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think there's a combination. I mean, he got pretty banged up in Cincinnati. I think that's when things started really to kind of fall off the rails a little bit. I mean, he got sacked 6 times and brutally hit. And, I think it's taken his toll. I mean, there's some sort of hip back issue that he's dealing with. It's being managed under the radar. You can see it if I don't want to make big deals of things, but I do think that it's something that they're managing, and we see Stafford when he's healthy and he makes beautiful throws, but I think we're also seeing some inconsistencies in his throwing. Some of them, and it could be miscues too. That's the hard part, is we don't know what's a miscue and what's just a bad read or what. I mean, there's been a couple that Cooper Kupp has just they've been on opposite pages, and that's just unlike either one of them. And who are you going to blame? Are you going to blame Stafford? Or are you going to blame Kupp? It's a toss-up. But this offense needs to find themselves. I
think they will. It just takes time. You have to remember, Kupp's been back for 3 games. Oh, sorry. He's been back for 3 games, guys. So, you can't just...
But this might be the worst of his career.
What?
Kupp's career? Kupp's. This was the worst game of Kupp's career. I mean, he had 7 targets and only had two receptions of them for 30-something yards.
Yeah, you're down to have a down day. I feel like people need to understand, Cup has performed so great for so long. Like, I wouldn't freak about one game where he just had a down game. Like it, I think it was bound to happen.
Well, we're going to see this. I mean, Puka got the lion's share this week. Last week, Cooper Kupp had the lion's share. Like, this is what we want to. We want a little bit more parity. We want to see a little bit more of them kind of each getting their own each week. But like you said, I don't think a one game is going to be bad for Cooper Kupp. I'm just hoping we're not seeing again another maybe fall of Stafford or something like that, because I feel like that's the one thing that we didn't have Kupp for so many weeks and we were doing well without him for the most part, but we couldn't win the games outright. Kupp came back. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like the offense is still trying to find itself with Kupp and Puka, and once they figure out that like good area where both can be equally involved, I think that's when this offense is going to explode, Zach, and that's coming.
Yeah, I got to pull something up that Jake Ellenbogen put, and I thought this was beautiful. And again, I don't know if this is a play call decision by McVay or if this is something about the creativity. Did you see that post where there were like no jet sweeps? We haven't seen anything super creative. It's just been kind of throw down, check down, bubble screens.
There's been a few, but it hasn't been a lot this year.
So
there's been a lot of screens, and the screens have not worked. The screens have been very bad this year, for the most part.
Okay, so he posted no jet sweeps, no I formation with Benisco, no slip screens for running backs, no split back formation, no.
You can't do much with two guys who haven't played in your offense almost at all. What do people expect?
But I think this was also this wasn't just this game. I mean, I think it's
we had some of that stuff last week though.
But I mean, limited usage. So I'm going to finish. Limited usage of Tutu, limited tight end usage in the pass game, and then bubble screens are only going to Puka. So I feel what I want to take from his point is that it just doesn't seem like we're getting super creative. And I get your point. We got two running backs who are not our lead running backs. Like I said, when last week we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we were playing with 5 and 6. That's really what we were playing for. And, I'm not surprised Zach Evans didn't play. I kind of said this last week. This was his role to lose, and I think he lost it going into this practice. And I knew Henderson was going to have a high game only because he knows the familiarity of this team, and he's good at pass blocking. He's a good runner, and he's shown that he still has it in him. Freeman did an excellent job too. Don't get me wrong. He played his role very well, and I think slightly outperformed Henderson. But it's just there's still no creativity in this offense other than some beautiful throws. But that's not really creativity. That's just Stafford doing his job of throwing the ball downfield and the receivers catching the ball. I want to see a little bit more creativity when it comes to scheming and offense and, getting the defense out of rhythm. Running the ball is great, but let's do a little bit something different.
I think people talking about using all these different run formations, it's like, guys, we just elevated a practice squad guy up to the active roster. Like you mentioned, we got Henderson off the couch, just like that Sunday night entrance off the couch.
But that doesn't. But
they can only do basic stuff. Like, yes, he can have familiarity. He can know some of the words from the offense, but that doesn't mean he's going to be entrenched in this new running scheme that we switched to. So, like, you can only do a certain amount of the playbook running wise without like having execution problems. And I think for the most part, those two guys, it was hit or miss, but for the most part, it wasn't their fault. Like, they both did what was asked of them and did a good job given the circumstance. Did a great job given the circumstance. I still kind of wish they picked Gaskins over Freeman, but that's a personal preference. But either way,
that comes with
both
the
did good.
unfamiliarity of the playbook. I think that's the problem. Like, I think he could be activated, but because it was such a short turnaround and he didn't have the familiarity with this offense, I think that was his downfall. The only criticism of him and why he didn't play was because you have Freeman, you have Evans, and you have Henderson. It's the odd man out if you don't know the playbook, and I don't think Gaskin knew the playbook, even though I think he's a talented and he could potentially be a good weapon if Kyron and Ronnie doesn't come back in the time period that they expect him to.
My point is they did good, but you have limited options with the running game for that situation.
Game, but you still could do jet sweeps. Like, you could
but
do a little bit with your.
It still affects the rest of your playbook, because if you can only do certain running plays with them, then the defense knows that too. And if defense knows that, then you have no threat of that vertical run in certain situations. Therefore, jet sweeps are very dependent on what the defense is expecting out of the formation in different movements and how they read that. And the defense knows you're limited in certain run situations also. So it's kind of like building on top of each other. So
but the Rams had a successful run game, though. The Rams had a very successful run game. They still had an over 100-yard run game.
Yes, but that doesn't mean jet sweeps will necessarily work, because the Rams have certain tells.
But they didn't try. That's the point. They didn't try. When you're talking about, you wanted them to be
than that.
But you want them to be complicated when they could try to get a 51, 53-yard field goal, but you want them to do something fancy and you want them to actually try to move the ball, but we won't try to do something different when it comes to, let's just try and see if a jet sweep works one time. And if they stop it, you don't have to do it again. Let's get creative. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm asking for is a little bit more creativity.
They tried some screens.
Screens aren't the end all be all. That gets you a couple yards, maybe, if you're lucky.
Neither is a jet sweep, right? Like, I don't think one jet sweep changes that game.
I mean, again, this was when Robert Woods was there, but when we had Robert Woods, jet sweeps worked really well. And there are times that they're not going to work, but at least
they haven't worked with any of the wide receivers we have now.
Well, maybe that's what they need to practice more on at practice. And I don't know. I also have this thing where, like, I really love Nine and Dime. Like, I really love some of the Rams content that they do, but I'm sometimes thinking they're focusing too much on the production value and not as much on the game itself. But I also know those guys work really hard, so I want them to have fun, and I love watching the content. Does that make sense?
It's a good show.
So, I don't know. I don't know if any other team does the amount of different shows that the Rams do. I watch them all because I'm crazy.
A junkie.
Yeah. But, like, they have so many shows that I don't know if any other team actually does as much production work as the Rams do.
Yeah, this team, kind of pivoting back to, like, your question, what is the issue with this team? I think this team has a high ceiling. I really do. But that floor is going to be low as long as they keep on allowing these execution problems and these mental lapses be present. And there are some gaps in the roster that they haven't adjusted, like edge rusher. Don't get me wrong. I like that Hoyt did good. I think he's a solid rotational player. But he also was getting beat on the edge sometimes. And he was trying to cover, I think Deontay Johnson caught a pass right over him. Like, he's terrible in coverage. Let's just be frank. Just not good in coverage. So, like, we got to have a he is a really good edge defender. We have to have a more complementary to Byron Young edge defender than someone who's more rotational, kind of like role player in Michael Hoyt. Safety, I think, is an issue for us. I think our
Oh,
safeties
really? I thought our safeties are fine. I thought they've been doing their job. I mean, they're not elites, but I
they're
don't think
not
that they're
terrible.
anything.
They're not terrible. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're as bad as like a
If
year ago.
so, you're saying, like, let's say Rams want to make a trade deadline. You would say edge is still they're out of all the things
Oh yeah,
that they. Do you say edge is their highest value point right now? Is that their biggest need?
edge.
Because
Yes.
I'm on the offense now. I was edge for so long, but I still see something is wrong, and it might be the offensive line. It might
Yeah, but
something is.
what's wrong with the O line? Oops.
I don't know. Something isn't working. Something again. I hate being a broken record, but something's not working on this offense.
So one
Alar
thing,
Jackson did not have a good game,
I
and
mean, he
that's
was going
Stafford's
against
blind
T.J.
side.
Watt.
Sure, but and they were doing a
T.J.
good
Watt's
job
a
against
top
them. But
3 D lineman. Like
I know, but still,
you're gonna
I
have to
just
pay a left tackle if you want someone to block T.J. Watt. That's all I'm
that's
saying.
what I'm just saying. That's probably the most important person on that offensive lineman for Stafford is to protect his
I
blind side.
I don't think any bad teams are gonna have a good enough left tackle that they want to trade.
That's not my point. My point is, I think that's still that. My point, I
So
guess,
would you say running back? Do you think
no,
that's a need?
no.
So
Why?
who on the offense? You said
An offensive
offense.
lineman.
Yeah, but who are you going to trade for that can get in the offense
Well,
quick enough?
I'm thinking hypothetically. Like, if I want somebody on this team to make this team a winning team, I think something on the offense needs to be fixed, and I can only blame two people. It's either the offensive line not giving Stafford enough time, or it's Stafford.
Well, so also you have to look at the fact that yes, the running game was good, but it was sporadically good. It would either go 9 yards or like one, and there wasn't. It felt like there wasn't a lot of in between runs, and like it would get us in bad situations at certain points in the game. And I'm just interested to see why that was. And I wonder why the tape, or I wonder what the tape would show kind of with that. Now, I was impressed because we got a lot of push against a really good Steelers defensive front. Like, that's a top 5 D line in the NFL. And there are wide open holes some plays. And then other plays, it would just be completely shut down. It wasn't like there were kind of like evenly sized holes and we were getting 4 to 5 yards. It was just like gashing them or just nothing at all. And yeah,
Sure.
I think some of that
But when you
also
have a
is
passing game that wasn't really working, I mean, Stafford was less than 50% on his completion rate. Like, they were running the ball more efficiently than they were passing the ball. Freeman was getting
a lot of
5.5 yards a
drops.
carry. A lot of drops. Sure. Cooper Kupp dropped quite a few.
Higbee.
Higbee dropped one. I do want to ask the question. Everyone's asked this question, so I'm going to ask you the question. Was Stafford aiming for Tutu or Cooper? Who
Oh,
was he intending for that touchdown?
obviously Cooper Cup, and
Obviously.
that would have been a pass breakup.
Yeah, I don't think he would have caught that.
He underthrew it, and Tutu didn't give up on the play. Kind of went up into space, and great play by Tutu. I'm very impressed. I think he's made a great jump in year 3. I guess we'll hit on this real quickly. Like we've been saying this since he was drafted. It has nothing to do with his draft position. It has everything to do with like the situation of that year, what the Rams should have did, and like him as a player. His value has nothing to do with the context of when the team drafted him. He can't help that. All he can do is produce, and the Rams haven't needed him to produce. Until this year. Well, I guess some last year. But he looks like he's prepared. He's gotten bigger, and I think that's paying dividends. And all the credit to him. He deserves that touchdown for not giving up on the play, and that's what you get. And we need more of that. I feel like this team is just lacking they get so close to great plays and like fantastic plays. That interception that three people touched, Zach. Everyone and their mama got a piece of that ball, but didn't catch it on our defense. Just, hey, you can say we got unlucky with the fumble. Like, it happened. I feel like that happens a lot with the Rams, with fumbles.
It's been an unlucky
and
year. I mean, it really has been an unlucky year for them.
The 49ers game, like tip passes that two like get intercepted and their tip pass goes into the grass. Like,
yep. All
a
right.
defender
Well,
should have caught that interception, Zach, for us. Like, one of them should have caught that.
they should have. Yeah.
Good on Roseboom for getting deflection. Like, credit on him. That was a great play.
He's been doing really well. Like I said, this defense has been way better than I think we all expect them to be. You know, we did get DK. I guess we didn't even mention that DK was did play.
Got benched.
He was fine. He did not. He got benched.
Yeah, he got benched in third
towards
quarter.
the end of the game. Yeah,
third quarter.
So I mean, he was, again, not spectacular. I think he was fine. But again, I think just the way everything played out, he probably should have just sat for a week and then moved on. But we'll see how things play out moving forward. Okay.
He was having a bad game. So,
anything else you want to add for this game?
No.
Okay. Well, the Rams are on the road for the first time in 4 weeks. The last 3 weeks they have been playing at home, which you wouldn't really know. But you know, they are going to Texas to face the Cowboys. What is your threat level for the Cowboys? They're a weird team.
I mean, they're like us. They can't execute the entire game. Dak Prescott is overrated and a trash quarterback. Let's see. They're constantly overhyped and underperform. Their defense is great. Like, it's a good defense, but it has a lot of vulnerabilities in the secondary. And I feel like Gilmore has had a good year, and I think Diggs is out. Yeah, Diggs got hurt before season. So, like, their secondary is good, but I feel like there's a vulnerability there the Rams can take advantage of. That D-line is solid. I think it's like a borderline top 10 D-line, in my opinion. They're typically good at stopping the run, but have issues with screens and stuff. So, I mean...
But the one good thing is the Rams seem to be doing fine with stronger defensive lines. You know, when you go up against face the 49ers, when you go up against and face the Eagles, when you go up against and face even the Steelers, they have a good defensive front. You know, that's something that the Rams have been pretty good at. There have been obviously some miscues and things like that when we have injuries and stuff. But I think the Rams have finally kind of found at least what they hope to be their home of their starting O-line. Still seems like Noteboom's going to get a chance once he's fully healthy to get a starting spot back. But I don't know why you would get rid of Dotson or pull Dotson off. He's the best offensive player. He's been graded the best offensive player for the Rams for at least the last 2 weeks, if not like the last 3 weeks.
I would say Avila, at least Ites, has been better, in my opinion. But, you know, Dotson's been great. So,
yeah, I mean, Avila, he's great. He's been a great rookie. This rookie class has just been excellent. And I think they're just going to continue to shine. But like I said, you know, between Avila, Dotson have been excellent. Havenstein, Shelton, he's been pretty good. He's had his moments where he hasn't looked the best. And then Alark Jackson, I think, probably came off his worst game this past week. So we'll kind of see how things go from there. But this Giants defense, they're just weird. The Cowboys. I was looking at their who they played against. They played against the Giants and dominated the Giants. They played against the
That's not
Jets,
hard.
dominated the Jets.
Not
So
hard.
yeah, the Giants and Jets. Jets were still trying to figure themselves out the first 2 weeks after Aaron
They don't
Rodgers
have a
left. So
quarterback, so I mean,
well, okay, the Jets have been pulling better than they have the first couple weeks. They've found their identity more than the last couple weeks than they have in the first 2 weeks. Then they go up against the Cardinals and have just a big stink bomb and let the Cardinals beat them and pretty dominantly. I mean, by 12 points. Destroyed the Patriots. Again, it's the Patriots. The 49ers, they got blown out by the 49ers. And then it was a very close game against the Chargers within 3 points.
there's nothing in that schedule that intimidates me, Zach.
No, I mean, I don't think so either. I mean, when you look at the 49ers score and you're like, well, we were close with the 49ers. And then you look at the Arizona score and, we destroyed the Arizona. We did struggle in the first half, but we did, kind of break away in the second half. Again, every team is beatable. The Rams have a chance to win. They just have to play better. They have to do something more than what they're doing. And again, broken record, but their offense have to produce. Their defense is doing just enough to win the games. It's their offense that are shooting themselves in the foot.
We are facing too good of teams to not have mistakes. And I feel like if we had played mistake-free football, this team could have 4 or 5 wins right now. Should have 5 wins. The problem is they made mistakes, and we played literally mostly playoff teams. And yeah, those teams are going to take advantage of your mistakes, and we have lost because of them. And that's what it comes down to. If you're going to make mistakes against the Cowboys, you're going to lose. That's a team that doesn't lose even when the other team's making mistakes. Like,
No.
It's not the Cardinals. It's not the Browns from 2018. Like, you can't make mistakes and still win the game. So, like, we have to play mistake-free football. All 3 phases have to work together. And, the team has to finally gel and put together 4 good quarters. And if it does that, like you said, we can beat anyone, but I feel like we'll beat most of these teams on the remaining on our schedule. They got to do that though. So,
yep, we got 10. We got 10 games left. The Rams need, to at least win 6 of them. I think to be really in playoff contention. I think this Ram can be in the playoffs. This team, like we mentioned earlier, is a playoff team if they could just gel all together.
It's going to be important for the wild card. This game will be important for wild card potential because if you beat the Cowboys, that will help us in wild card seeding if we don't win the division.
I mean, really, it's the next 2 games. I mean, we have the Cowboys this week, and then we have Green Bay the following week. Like, these 2 are must. One of these 2 are definitely must wins. I really think we need to get both of these wins to kind of keep fighting for it, to get us into the bye, get us rested, and then, come to perform. The problem with the Rams is like the Cowboys are coming off a bye this week. So they're going to be a little bit more refreshed.
2 teams in a row.
2 teams in a row. And I think we have a total of 4 more teams that we're playing off after their bye. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the schedule, Zach, for the Rams, just we're gonna have some big playoff potential games. Cowboys, Packers, and Seahawks. All teams looking for a wild card slot. I feel like if we can go on a 3-game win streak, that puts us in a really good situation. That means we'll have 6 wins with tiebreakers over the Cowboys and Packers and Seahawks for the playoffs. That's like, this is the important stretch of the season. This will either determine most likely if we make the playoffs or not. And then after that, we play the Cardinals. Again, an important game that should be a give me. And then Browns and Ravens. out of conference games that will kind of determine whether or not we can make a play for the division or not. And then the Commanders is Commanders and Saints, very important potential for wild card. So we are playing a lot of wild card teams for potential of earning tiebreakers over those teams in both the Commanders and Saints. So this team's going to have opportunities to at least play itself into a wild card, and if it does good enough, they could win division. But they have to start getting hot now, Zach.
I mean,
you can't be lukewarm.
No, for sure. But I think the defense can handle it. I mean, the defense has been handling a lot of the top wide receivers in this league. They've been controlling them. Not many of them have
just AJ
been
Brown.
able. AJ Brown, was the only one who went over 100 yards. So we got CeeDee Lamb. He's the biggest weapon threat on the Cowboys side. He just came off a game of 7 catches for 117 yards. On the defense, Gilmore, he had 3 tackles and 1 interception for them. So we got to play mistake-free. Stafford has to kind of play mistake-free ball. And so Prescott, he's, I don't really see him as a top 10 quarterback. I mean, maybe he floats right there at the very top of that. But this past week, 21 of 33 pass attempts, 272 yards and 1 touchdown, to just barely get them to win up against
He's
Chargers.
in the Kirk Cousins land of mediocrity. So
yeah, which, hey, Kirk Cousins, hey, he did what we needed them to do last night and take down the 49ers a peg. So that was excellent for that. So yeah, the Rams are going to have a tough challenge just because they're going to be a more well-rested team. The Rams are, they're still trying to find themselves. We need Stafford to get maybe a little bit more healthy. Hopefully he can get more time to rest and, get back out there to be the Stafford. Because I thought he was actually really good when he was kind of moving around a little bit. It's kind of when he stays in that pocket, there's been a lot of trouble. So, I know it was kind of a short pass to Cooper Kupp that Tutu caught, but I like the scramble because he kind of scrambled to his blind side, which he normally doesn't do. It was just something that I liked, and it worked well when he was able to scramble just a little bit. I don't need him to scramble every play, but a little bit of movement is okay with me.
Yeah, can't go full Lamar.
So the Cowboys are probably the favorite team this week. They're 4-2 for a reason, but again, they are 4-2 because they were facing opponents who either are not or were not great, and then lost obviously to the Arizona Cardinals, but not surprising that they lost to the 49ers. So yeah. Other than that, we got Micah Parsons to deal with.
He's good.
So that's. He's really good. So between Gilmore and Parsons, those are the 2 players that we're going to have to watch out on the defensive side, and try to keep him contained as best as possible. So, with that, any closing thoughts before we wrap this up? This went a lot longer than I think we both anticipated it to go.
Rough game.
A lot of rants.
I really hope we can rebound. I don't want to go through more pain. No more pain, Zach. Let's start all win November. Let's do that. All win November.
Let's do the reverse than what we normally are, because usually we lose all of November. So, anyways, not to think about that. We'll be positive. Let's move positive. The Rams, they have the chance, they have the talent, they can do it. They just got to clean things up a little bit. But I think we're going to wrap it up on this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast each and every week. We really appreciate you. We are very close to hitting our 100 subscribers on YouTube. So once we do that, I'll do a t-shirt giveaway for one lucky person who follows us. You can subscribe to us at youtube.com/@East Coast Rams. Please like, subscribe, smash this bell that YouTube has to make sure you're always notified. Please leave a comment on this video. Who do you think the Rams are going to win? What do you think that the Rams' biggest flaw is currently? Please leave those in the comments below. If you're listening to us, you can send us your comments at at feedback at eastcoastrams.com. You can find us on X at East Coast Rams. And you can find me at Zach Mayer. And then you can find Ashton at RamsFanAshton1 on X. Again, you can find us on Instagram, Threads, Mastodon if you so choose. We are on all the socials. So please give us a like and follow on each one of those platforms. Ashton, it's been fun. We're hoping for a big Rams W this Sunday so that we can get into a more positive, uplifting podcast for those who listen. So with that, have a good rest of your week. Make sure that you're treating everyone nice. SoFi, not so nice this past weekend. But anyways, stay good to each other, people. Let's get a win on Sunday. And whose house? Rams house.